Okay, hello again, everyone. This is part two of the server rack build. So before I get into continuing where I left off, actually a little bit further after I left off last time, I did a little bit more work. Before I get into that, I want to kind of give a little bit of a preview of why I'm building this and get a sense of what else I'm going to be working with today. So the first thing is we're in the basement here in what's going to become my new office. And so you can see there on the floor, the blue tape, that should tell you about where, oh boy, this is tough to do. That should tell you about where the new office is going to be. It's going to be back in the corner, there a little bit. Pretty much the whole back of the basement there is going to be my office. And you can see that while we're waiting for contractors to come in to actually build the walls out, I got excited and I went ahead and built the desk that's going to be where I'm going to work after the new offices are built. So you can see that it's a corner desk. It's an L desk basically. It's three pieces. They're connected with carriage bolts, so it's easy to move around. But what I want to do is primarily have the corner here of the L to be the place where I'll do the majority of my work, and then over to the right and to the left, I want these ancillary desks to remain mostly free, open space, so that I can put, notebooks down to write, or if I want to put like a drawing pad, or maybe if I have a project to work on, I've got a little bit of space, I can do that and still have my main computer set up in the corner so I can do research on Google or whatever. So down there, that's the computer that I'm using right now, and it's about the same size as the good machine that I'm going to bring down from the upstairs, which is where my main main desk is that I work at every day right now. Over here, though, this is kind of what I wanted to point out. You can see there's this other computer right now, and it's just an old PC that we had laying around that I loaded Linux up on and set up Samba to use as a file server. And so we're using it right now, just kind of make it easy to do backups and share files and things just at home between me and my wife and daughter. You can see, though, that this thing is occupying just a ton of space. Like, it's basically wasting the whole left side of my desk. Not to mention, and then there's the machine on the floor connected to a switch over here. So it's basically, I've lost now already a third of my desk space. And so that's the impetus for wanting to build this server rack. In addition to building the server rack, other projects that I plan to do, probably either in conjunction or shortly after building it, are first, you can see down on the floor, I had to put these risers, I guess you'd say, little one by pieces of boards underneath the sets of legs that are right at the corner. And that's because if you look, and again, I don't know how good the quality of video here is if you'll be able to tell, but there's actually a gap in the floor. When they built the house, I guess there was just a divot there in the floor there and over on this side. And so I had to actually put these spacers underneath it just to raise these middle legs, the sets of middle legs in the corner, high enough so that the whole thing wasn't tilting down. My monitors and everything up top here were tilting down. So one thing I want to do is I want to trim these so that they're just the length of the two sets of legs on both sides. Trim them and paint them, get them all kind of consistent color and shape, so that they don't kind of stick out like sore thumbs. Like I got one unpainted and one half painted over here because they were just scrap wood I had laying around. So I want to do that. I want to build an L-shaped or a triangular-shaped corner riser, basically for the corner of the L desk, specifically to raise the two monitors and the base of this lamp high up, maybe another, let's say, 4 or 6 inches above this, so that I can put my keyboard and mouse not on top of the bases of the monitors, but underneath it, and have plenty of plenty of space there without everything kind of being real cramped the way it is right now. So that's another project. And then the third project is, like I said here, I've got this computer, and that's great where it's sitting right now, except for the fact that I don't like having machines sitting on the floor. We had, boy, many years ago we had the sump pump in our basement failed, and it ended up flooding the whole basement right around the perimeter. And it took us a while to realize it, but once we did, it was too late. You know, the flooding was all over. And so really, any electronic components that had been sitting on the floor at the time, and fortunately we didn't have any, but had there been, it could have been a big mess, a big, you know, water plus electricity equals real problems. That could have been a fire. Who knows what that could have been. So anyway, what I want to build for this is a carriage, a CPU carriage that'll hold that whole machine. And again, I might use the bracing pieces here and put just like a shelf underneath it, provided that the height of the CPU will fit on top of where that shelf would be and underneath the top of the desk. And then build it halfway out and put a support leg on it. Again, just to raise it like 6 or 8 inches off the ground in case there's you know, some sort of catastrophic flooding type problem. So those are kind of the three things I want to do to the desk. I've got the components that I'm going to be putting in. So really, I just ended up getting, I had these really nice 120 millimeter Antec case fans that I got, I think on like some sort of deal from Amazon for a really good price. I don't even remember what it was. And then I ended up, just recently, I bought some connectors here. This one I think came with it. This is like Molex to 3-pin case fan splitter. It's like a four case fans to 1 Molex. And then I got had another one that's a Molex to 2 4-pins, which connects to one of the 5 case fans. And then I bought a Molex to Molex splitter, just a 1 to 2. And then I bought this other cool device, which is just an AC to Molex with an adapter, with a power supply rather. So I can, and again I'll illustrate this, I can take this over here and plug it, whoops, right into the wall, and then come over here and look, and sure enough, yeah, those fans are all, they're all kicking off a decent amount of air, and they're very quiet too. So I'm thinking these are going to be great for case fans, these 5, and then of course I got room to expand. I can add a couple more if I want to into that case once it's done, after I see how the airflow is. Okay, so anyway, that's pretty much the plan at this point. Yeah, I'm going to be starting the build here pretty soon, and that'll be the next part of the video. Thanks for watching. Okay, everybody, welcome back. This is part 2 of my DIY server build, and oh wow, look at the camera. Okay, part 2 of the DIY server build. Well, I've had quite the learning experience with the camera and with video editing over the past week, trying to get that first video cleaned up and published, and yeah, so quite the learning experience. I probably will talk about that at some point in a future video. I want to kind of bring everybody up to speed on what happened since the end of that first video. The first video, if you remember, I had just about gotten the frame built when the video cut out. Well, what happened was the battery died at that point, and that was my second battery, and so I had to start charging both batteries, and I can only charge one battery at a time. I don't have a charger for the other one. So it was out of commission. The camera was out of commission while I was charging the battery, and I didn't want to stop working on it at that point. My wife had actually gotten home, so I asked her to help me continue with where I was at and try to get to a good stopping point. So before I continue building, I want to just kind of bring everybody up to speed. Here you can see, oops, that's the case where it sits right now. So it's got, when the frame got finished, I attached the casters to the bottom So now the whole thing is mobile, just like I was hoping for. Those are locking casters, so I can roll it to where I want, and then step on the locks. Easier said than done. And lock a wheel. Whoops. Lock a wheel right where it's supposed to be, and then unlock it when I want to move it again. So I took that 1/4-inch Luan plywood, and I had 4 pieces of it. So one of them became the door up front here, and then the other 3 are just the 2 sides and the back. I just attached them to the frame. And then we took some pieces of scrap plywood, just as I had kind of described, and we notched out corners for where the legs would be on the bottom ones there, and then attached them with screws on the inside. Same for the top. It just so happens I had 2 pieces of, again, this is about, I think, 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch plywood that were laying around, and it was cut funky, one of my special non-straight cuts. But it just so happens that we had both sides of that, the piece that had been cut. And so the crooked cut married up perfectly once we positioned the 2 pieces together, and then it was just a matter of cutting the edge to match the dimensions of the cube, and then attaching everything. Since it was in 2 pieces and it was split right down the middle, where you can imagine that this will be where the monitor will sit, and then up here will be a keyboard and a mouse. So the user will be standing right in front of it when they're working. Whoever's working on maintaining the servers at the time, if they need to log in or do something, look at the machines. So what we were seeing was that the 2 sides of the plywood, since they weren't attached to one another, even though they married up very well at the edge, it would sort of bounce, and so it would create like a gap there, like a lip, which was going to be funky if you had a keyboard sitting on it and you were putting more pressure on one side, like when you were moving the mouse, it would make the whole keyboard wobble back and forth. So to address that fact, we just took a scrap piece of wood and attached it right underneath, right down the length of where the split was between the 2 pieces, and then pre-drilled 4 countersunk holes and attached them with screws. And now you can see it's real sturdy. There's no movement, no matter where you put pressure on the top. So I think it's going to be great. The front you can see here. Whoops. The front you can see. I just used old hinges that I had and attached it to the piece of Luan, and I used a little piece of 1/2 inch plywood so that there was enough space to attach the other side of the hinge to. It was attached to the other side of the hinge tube here onto the plywood itself, giving it a little bit of thickness. And then so again, I attached the plywood to the Luan with just some countersunk, 1/4-inch countersunk screws attached. So it basically made that side of it thicker. Now, the problem, if you remember, all along with the first build, was that I said nothing was square, and you can see that's sort of the problem was amplified, as I had predicted it would be. So trying to position these squares so that they would be level this way, and then also not look wonky in the vertical direction for the sides of the frame that they're attached to. That was a trick. We had to sort of like just kind of cheat there and get it as close as we could. Same with, this is the back here, and then this is the other side, same general issue. You really notice it kind of down here at the bottom. There's a little bit of a gap in the back. Again, I'm not really worried about it. My plan is that once I've got everything, all the hardware attached, all the cutting and drilling done that I need to, I'll probably put a coat of black paint on it. Black is what I usually paint most of my woodworking projects because it tends to hide a lot of the flaws and imperfections. I use a lot of like recycled material from prior projects, and so there's like screw holes where, you know, just holes where holes were drilled, or screw holes, countersunk screw holes where screws had been when the piece was attached to the prior project, the prior object, whatever the other project was. And so just by putting a coat of black paint on it, it really sort of covers that up and smooths it out, makes it look like a much nicer finish. So I'll do that with this one again once I've got all the cutting done. One thing I want to mention is that, God, this is a trick with the camera. One thing I want to mention is that you notice when I close this, and maybe you can't see it so well if I turn it this way. when I try to close this door, this is going to be the front door of the cabinet, it wants to sort of flop open. Again, it's real thin. This is like 1/4 inch Luan plywood, and it's just flimsy as all heck, and you know, it doesn't want to stay shut. And so I thought, well, you can kind of see that it comes right up to the edge here, and I could cut this down if I wanted to. I could cut like a 1/2 inch off the side of this, so that I could put some nice like latch type hardware on. But instead, what I did is I went again just on Amazon, and I looked up and I found here. Hopefully you can see this is actually just it's a two piece sort of like latching hardware that's magnetic, and I think this is for like a cabinet maybe. So this side I can attach to the inside of the frame, and then this side is just a magnetic disc. It's basically looks like a washer with a recessed screw hole, so that that can be flush once you attach it to the other side, and it's magnetic, so it'll stick right to it. So my plan is, hopefully we can see, if we can see this here, is to take this side of it and attach it to the inside here. Attach it to the inside here like this, and then since the door closes completely in front of it, I'll attach this to the inside of the door, which will give me a nice magnetic seal once I close the door. And then I've got just another piece of hardware here, just kind of something laying around, just like a handle that would be, again, this would be like hardware for a cabinet, like a handle for a cabinet in your kitchen. Just had a spare laying around, so that'll go probably right in front, right next to where that screw hole is. So ultimately what it'll look like is you should just see a handle there, and then when you pull that, then you're actually causing the disconnect between the two magnetic pieces to open it up when you need to get inside. Otherwise, you just bring it kind of close and it should seal it shut pretty quickly and easily. Okay, so that's the plan there. Let me go back and look here at some of the other hardware that I got. Case fans. So I bought these Antec. I got 5 of them. These 5 Antec case fans, really nice, 120 millimeter, very large. They move a good volume of air, good airflow, but they're super quiet, and I love that. So I'm probably going to, I've got 5 of them. I'm planning to put 2 of them in each side of the server rack to act as the input airflow. Bringing in cool air into the sides of the case. So 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side, and then one of them will go in back, along with these 2 smaller 80 millimeter case fans that I just had laying around. One's an Antec, I don't even know what the other one is. It doesn't even look like it's branded. So these are just really old that I pulled out of some case years ago, I'm sure, on a machine that I was doing maintenance on or scrapping for parts. So I'm planning to put these 2 along with one of the case fans in back with the airflow directed out the back. So the idea being I want to pull cool air in from the sides of wherever this is sitting, and then I want to pull the hot air, which is the exhaust air from the machines that are sitting inside, out the back, blow that right out the back. So kind of create like this circular vortex of cool air coming in, heating up, and then the hot air being passed out the back. That's the plan, at least. So two on the left side, 2 on the right side, and then a large one and 2 small ones on the back to act as the exhaust fans. 4 intakes, 3 exhaust. Probably, you know, if there's somebody out there that specializes in designing server hardware, will tell me that I'm doing this all wrong and that I've got the wrong airflow and the wrong number of fans, or I need to, you know, better calculate the rate to make sure that the output exceeds the input or is at least equal to the input. Please feel free to drop a comment. Again, I just want to keep the temperature inside the case as cool as possible with the parts that I've got here basically laying around, so that the servers don't overheat when I've got the cabinet door closed. That's kind of the plan. In terms of the other hardware I'm going to attach, again, just a power strip laying around, grounded power strip. Actually, well, grounded, yeah, but I don't know that this one's got a breaker reset switch on it. So I may want to get one that's got a breaker button. This is just a 10100 Netgear 8-port Ethernet switch that I've got laying around. That'll go in so that I can connect multiple devices to it, and then have one output port. That's the uplink port to connect to whatever the rest of the network is in the house. And then I'm probably going to throw this in. This is an old, for those that aren't familiar because they're so young they've never seen this. This is a PS2 port, keyboard and mouse and keyboard, and video, VGA video. This is a KVM switch, keyboard video mouse switch. So it lets two sets of keyboard video mouse here, whoops, two sets of keyboard and video mouse, which is let's say two servers it connects to here, and then lets one particular keyboard, physical keyboard, one physical mouse, and this VGA port would connect to one physical monitor. So this allows you to rapidly switch between two different computers that are using PS2 and VGA connections for keyboard, video, and mouse with just your keyboard, actually. Most of them are keyed to a key on the keyboard like numlock. Like you hit numlock twice and it'll switch from one set to the other. I think that's how this one works. And again, I just had this laying around, and it just so happens that old server that I've got in there right now, the Linux server that's running Samba that we're using as a file server, it happens to use VGA and PS2 as its I/O ports, so this will actually work great for that. Can connect it first, and then I'll just, if I have any other machines that I want to build as a server, I'll probably take another old machine that I've got that uses similar I/O configuration to be able to use the KVM switch with it. I'm not really sure. I don't know what I'm going to add in the future. I just want to add a little bit of extensibility at this point. And if I decide to go with newer machines, everything is USB these days for the most part. You get HDMI cables for video, or I'm drawing a blank on what the other one is. HDMI or the newer one. I can't remember. A DisplayPort, I think they call it. HDMI or DisplayPort, but then it uses USB for keyboard and mouse. And I think I've got a USB KVM switch laying around somewhere. I just have to go dig it out. This one I just found really easily. So again, this is basically the hardware that I'm going to attach, and that's essentially what I'm going to do at this point today to do all the cuts and then attach all the hardware if I can, and then probably paint it up, and then that should be a finished product. So I'm going to stop the video for now, get everything set up, and then when I resume, not much narration, it'll just be kind of putting together the pieces that I talked about, and then hopefully we'll have a finished product at the end of it. Oh boy. Okay, I've decided to move the build of the server rack over here into the finished side of the basement. We had to clear out most of the finished side in anticipation of having the new offices built. So I'm standing in what will eventually be my wife's office. But for now, the space is just empty while we're waiting for the contractors to build out the walls, which is great because it gives me a lot of room to be able to work on this server rack, since it's now gotten kind of big and unwieldy, difficult to work on over on the other side of the room. So what I'm going to do here is, first I'm going to trace out with pencil onto all the different pieces where all of the screw holes to attach hardware are going to go, and then also where the hardware itself will need to have an access port. So like for example, with the case fans, the screw holes will be on the corner, and so I'll have to leave those in place. But on the inside where the actual fan is, I'll have to make a circular cut in there to allow airflow to pass from the inside to the outside of the case, or vice versa. So I'm going to trace all that out ahead of time. I'm just going to put the different pieces on here, trace them out, and then I'm going to label each of the panels here. So like front outer, left outer, rear outer, right outer, and then with orientations for what the up direction are, so that I can disconnect the screws once I've got everything all traced onto it, all the different drill holes and cut holes traced onto it, and I can take each piece to the other side, do the cutting, do the drilling, and then bring it back out and basically put the panels back on and then reassemble all the hardware. That's kind of the plan. So without further ado, that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so what I'm going to attempt to do here is take the piece of hardware with the magnet, and I'm going to attach it here first, and then I got the other side that I've got a piece of tape with the sticky side toward the metal ring that's going to be attracted to the magnet, and the non-sticky side which will actually face the magnet like this. So that once I've got this attached here, this, in theory, this will be sticky enough that I can close the door, and then when I'm very carefully, when I peel it and I open the door, it should be right at the position that it needs to be, so then I can pre-drill the hole and attach it. That's the theory, at least. We'll see how it goes. Of course, of course. So, that's a mistake. The, you know what though? The little screws that came with this hardware here, they are a smaller diameter than the 1/8 inch drill bit that I was using here. So, you know what I'm just going to do is go find a couple of screws that do match it instead of having to switch to a smaller bit. Be right back. Well, not sure what was wrong with the camera there. Hopefully this one's recording now. What I ended up doing is I just found a set of screws that's going to match the diameter of the pre-drilled holes so that I can attach the hardware to. So I'm going to do that now. Looks like I need to use a bigger piece of tape, but I think the idea is going to work. We'll see. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got it taped now. I've got the metal sort of receptor that's going to connect to the magnet just taped here in what I think is the correct place. So now I want to see if when I close it, beautiful. It opens up just as I want it. Again, you can see the bottom's kind of wobbling too. It's a very flimsy piece of wood, this Luan. So what I'm going to do then is repeat the same process on the bottom. Then I'm going to tack these in, and then once those are in, I can attach the handle, and then that's pretty much all I need to do with the door for it to be functional. Okay. Okay, same concept now. Flip over here and see if we can use the tape to do the heavy lifting for us here. But we want this to be this way. Okay, same thing. I don't know if you can see this. Same thing here on the bottom. Now let's see if that matches up. Yep, I think that's going to be just fine. That's going to be just fine. Okay, so let us now attach those. Huh. Now again, the problem here, this is pretty typical. The problem is that the screws that they gave to attach it's a washer basically. Attach the washer, which is the receptor to which this magnet will stick. The screws that they gave to attach it are like a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch in length, and I'm going through a 1/4 inch Luan here. So if I just attach it, it sticks right out the other side, this obnoxious point that you can catch things on, get stuck on. So that's really no good. So really what I'm going to need to do is to either find a different screw, like maybe a little machine screw that I can put a bolt on, or put a piece of wood across this that these can actually attach into, which will kind of match this piece that I've got on the other side. And I think I may do that, just because I think it'll look better aesthetically. All right, so off to find more hardware. Okay, a lot of camera problems and whatnot. Okay, so what I ended up doing was I got a little piece of, another little piece of 1/4 inch plywood. This is, again, just to increase the thickness of this so that as the screws that attach the hardware go through the back plane here, they don't pop out the front. To hold this in place temporarily till I get one tacked in, I just put a C-clamp on here. And now, again, I'm just going to hand tighten it. I'm not even going to pre-drill them because I found that working with, when you're working with really thin wood like this, that it's tough to control the speed at which the drill will plow right through it. And really I should be working with a much smaller drill bit, and I'm just too lazy to swap out the drill bits. So these are wood screws, pointy tip, so they're effectively self-tapping. If you go slow enough, they're functioning as both the drill that you would normally use to pre-drill it and the screw to attach it, all in one motion. Okay, so and now I'm just going to put pressure on the other side as I start to tighten it down. Okay, and it looks like it's just coming through on the other side, which what I'll probably do is just like sand that down. Sand off the tip down so it's kind of smooth. It's just barely coming through. So that's good enough for government work, as they say. Actually, what I'm going to do is, since this is attached now, I'm going to move my clamp down so that there's pressure right where it's going to need to be when I make this connection between the two. Okay. So, clamp was the right idea, but it was in the wrong place. It wasn't far enough down. So it just kind of pushed away instead of actually biting into it. So I'll bring it down all the way to the corner, reclamp it. I'm going to back the screw out and then get these as flush as I can, hold them tight, and then very slowly essentially drill and tighten at the same time. And yeah, now I'm starting to feel it just about come through on the other side, just like the other one did, just as I'm tightening it down. So what I'll do is just, I'll just sand it. I'll just sand essentially the tips of or grind the tips of the screws that came through off so that they don't catch on anything or stick. But now we should be able to see, yep, that's basically just what I was looking for. And it can be opened up with minimal effort, but once it gets within proximity, snaps shut, which is just what I wanted. Okay, so next thing is to kind of decide where the handle's going to go, and I'm kind of thinking right about there. We got enough space for the hardware on the back. Yeah, and I want it right between the two, essentially balanced between the two, so you're pulling evenly on it when you go to open it up. So again, probably this is going to be right here, and I am going to pre-drill. Yeah, I'm going to pre-drill that hole through there, right in the center of that. Okay, so the drill hole is not quite big enough to let this machine screw through. So I'm going to grab a slightly larger bit and then drill it out a little bit wider. One thing I've learned a lot doing projects like this is that before you pre-drill a hole, make sure that the diameter of the bit, like if you look at the bit straight on right from the end, make sure that its maximum diameter doesn't exceed the diameter of the threads of the screw that you want to attach if you want it to if it's a wood screw that you want to attach and have it bite into the wood, you need to make sure that the diameter of the drill bit does not exceed the diameter of the threads. However, in this case, this is a machine screw. I'm not trying to attach to the wood, I'm trying to connect to the other side to attach to the hardware, which is the receptor. So really what I want is the diameter of the drill bit to be about equal, ideally about equal, maybe slightly larger, but ideally about equal to the diameter of the machine screw's threads. And yeah, this one looks pretty close. So this should do the trick. Pretty straightforward there. Let's see if that was big enough. Just about big enough so that it can now get through, which is just about what I wanted. If it's close again, it's not a problem. It's when it's way too small, you won't be able to get that machine screw through because it doesn't have any drilling tip on it. It's just a flat tip. Okay, now interestingly enough, I added that that nut to the base of this screw because the screw was too long before to go through just the Luan and connect flush with the hardware in front. However, now that I added this extra piece on here for the other two pieces of hardware I had to connect, I can remove that nut and it should be just the right length. Actually, all I really need to do is get this all the way through on this side, and then I could use it to just tighten the handle on the other side. And so, if all went as planned, which it looks like it did, let me test it now and see. The magnets top and bottom are holding it just fine. And then just the gentlest pull on the handle disconnects the magnets. You can see it's still wobbly. I don't know if you can see it. The door wobbles as it opens because the Luan's so thin. I could probably build out more frame up here if I wanted to make this sturdier, but again, I don't really care. For the most part, it's going to just sit closed. It's only an access panel if you need to get into work on the physical hardware of the servers at some point. So I'm pretty content with that as it is. I think that worked out great. Next part is to, oops, let me unlock all the casters here. Okay, and now, so this is the right side. I'm going to get these guys and kind of mark out where I want them to be. You know what? I'm going to do something I don't normally do, and that is use a ruler because I kind of want these to look even. Basically, just shy of 5 inches, so about 4 3/4 inches in width for these fans. So say 5 inches, and I want to take 5 off 24 is 19. Half of 19 is 9.5. So basically 9.5 inches should be 9.5 inches should put right here. This should be the top. That's 9.5. And I'll measure 9.5 over here. Approximate 9.5, and then I think I want these guys to be on here. I think I want them to sit right about here. These are intake fans, so I'm going to sit right about there. So what I want to do is to have basically one diameter width of fan in between the two. So if it's 5, did I say 5 or did I say 4.5? let's say 5. So 5, 5, 10, and the intermediary space would be 15. 15 inches off of 24 is 9, so 4.5 from the edges should be where I want to put the edge of the fans. Okay, so I'm guessing that basically the fan is going to be sitting here, and then the other one will sit right in there. So I'm going to mark out here basically tracer on the outside of where it'd be. And you basically see that there. There's one, and then the other one is sit right about here. Right about there. So we can see that right in the center here, that's where the screw holes have to be to attach the fans. Again, we'll be attaching these on the inside, all of them on the inside actually. So the fans will sit like this because, again, when you're looking at a fan, whatever the curved surface is, wherever the concave part, the cup part, the scoop part of the curve is, that's the direction that the air is going to be blowing. The convex part, the bowled out part, that's the direction that the air is going to be pulled from. So in this case, they're going to sit on the inside of the cases at this location, and they're going to be oriented this way. So you got to imagine this will be on the inside over here, and then there'll be screws coming through from the outside here to attach to them. And then on the inside here, we're going to have, oh wow, look at that, right about that diameter. Right about that diameter. In fact, I can use that instead of getting out a compass. So right about in the center there is where I actually have to make the cut. So it'll look just like about this here. That's basically the cut location. You may not be able to see what I've traced there, but so screw holes will be there. I'm actually just going to cut the circles out here. Now the cool thing is that this is the front. So I'm going to start marking these. This is for the most part here, it's pretty self-evident. Where the hardware is. Like I'm not going to have to take the door off the front, because I'm not going to do any cutting on it. I'm not going to put any fans in it, at least not at this point. So these guys here, the most important thing is I note that's the right side. It's the right side panel. This is the outside face, and this is the top, orientation-wise. So the other thing I'm going to do is to, well, here it's self-evident, 1, 2, 3, 4 screws to reattach it in this place. The back is the only one that's kind of a trick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But again, that's pretty self-evident. That should be it, to attach to the 5 holes and then 4 on this side. So with that being said, I think, one last thing to do here. So the right side and the left side are mirrors of one another, and these are all pretty centrally positioned. So once I've got this one cut, I should be able to lay this one on top of the other one, trace it out, and then make the same cuts. And so it's going to be identical on those two sides, because I want to have 2 intake fans on the left, 2 intake fans on the right, and I want to have 3 exhaust fans in the back. And so those 3 fans, this is a key difference here in the back, is that one of them is going to be the last big 120 millimeter Antec that I've got. The other 2 are these small 80 millimeter fans. So I need to decide position-wise where they're going to be. So the general theory is hot air rises, cold air sets. So if we're bringing in cool air here from the sides, it's going to want to settle to the bottom. But if we want to draw air out, hot air out, the hot air is going to be more in the top than at the bottom. So I'm thinking that the exhaust fans blowing this way out the back there should be two at the top and one probably in the middle. So that's kind of how I'm going to orient it. Now again, I may be completely wrong about all that, and maybe there's a physicist or maybe just some hardware technician going, yeah, he's doing it totally wrong. Drop a comment, let me know what it should be instead. This is just about three and a half inch in width, and that's about equal. So I'll say, well, not even 3.5, it's more like 3.25, a little less than 3.25. I'm going to say these are about 3. So again, 3 and 3 is 6. 6 off of, I'm sorry, 3 and 3 is 6 plus, let's say, we put maybe, I don't know, 6-inch width in it. So 12 off 24 leaves us 12 for the outside, divided by 2 is 6. We should be able to come in 6 inches from the side here on each side, and that should be where these are positioned. And again, I'm probably going to drop these just 6 inches from the top. So I'm going to mark it 6 there, 6 here, 6 and 6. So that should be where these guys are going to be oriented like that. So again, I'm going to trace this here. Yeah, that's not bad. Alright, so we can see where that's at. And again, the screw holes are going to be, you know, basically there, here, and here. Same concept. And so then what we really need to look at is what's the diameter of the fan, and that's a 3-inch diameter. And this should be, yeah, this is essentially. So I'll get a compass in a minute, and I'll trace a 3-inch circle out in the middle there, unless the inside of this thing happens to be exactly 3 inches. Let's see. Oh wow, and it does. Just out of pure luck, the inside of this, the inside diameter of this roll of tape is 3 inches. So again, I'll put this centered basically between all 4. And that's the circle that needs to be cut there. And the concept here. There's the circles that need to be cut out of there. And then the last fan, obviously, will go basically between the two. Probably put it probably right about there. Let's see. Again, I'm kind of eyeballing it because it doesn't have to be exact. There we go. Okay, and like I said, once I've got this one cut, I'll use that as a template for the other one, so I don't need to measure that one out. This is where these 3 need to be cut, and that's all the cuts need to be. I'm going to go make the cuts, and I will be back shortly. Okay, cool. So, my wife's helping me now, thank you for that. We attached one of the Baby Intech case fans. This is one of the 120 millimeters on this side, and we're going to now replicate the process over here. Just one so that you can see what's involved. Better?
Yep.
Okay. So I've cut out all the holes now on all the different pieces. The 2 sides and on the back. Two on each side and then 3 on the back. Those are all cut and ready to go to the correct diameter. What we need to do though is to is pre-drill the holes for the fans before we attach the before we attach the fans. The fans are going to be attached with machine screws, and wow, nothing's cooperating. Okay, fans are going to be attached with machine screws, which means that you can't just use them to do the initial biting through the material, or drilling through the material. Flat tip. So what we have to do is pre-drill the holes. But the trick is that we're dealing with a case fan here where it's, I don't know if you can see this, just zoom it up here. So there's where the screws are going to go here. Oh my God. I'm sorry, I'm so out of sorts here. And, so what comes with a fan, if you've never attached a case fan, is you get four little case screws. They're tiny. They're about half an inch or less than a half an inch in length, and about less than a quarter inch in diameter. And so what's got to happen is they have to connect into the receptor holes on the edge of the case. But the trick here is that it's very difficult to know where exactly the holes are relative to the big hole where the fan's going to be. I've drawn my estimate, but that's not close enough. It's got to be more precise for these to be accurate. So what we do is we take the fan, set it right on top of where it needs to be, and then I'm going to take the drill here, and I've got something that's just the correct diameter to match this. It's about a quarter inch wide drill bit, and it's got about 2 inches of width. So again, I'm going to hold this right where it needs to be, and I've already drawn the outline so I know where it needs to be positioned. Now I'm going to drill right through the hole, and then through the other side, through the hole and through the panel here. The reason I did this is because, again, I want it to be exact. I don't want to be off by a fraction of an inch and then you go try to connect it and it doesn't match up with the receptacles. So now the trick is, we've got to use the screws that came with it, the case fan screws. Are going to have to go through the pre-drilled holes, which is fine. But then the really tricky part, in fact, the only really difficult part about this, is trying to match up the screw with the receptor hole of the case fan. When it works right on. And if it doesn't, and you're off just slightly, well, you go through hell actually trying to get it to line up. Now again, as I mentioned before, I did the outside screws first, so once they're attached, then everything else should be treated to the other remaining screws after that. And I'm putting pressure on the bottom here so that it bites, it connects up with the receptor hole immediately. So I was off just slightly. Now that I got these two, the other two should go in no problem. Check the bottom to make sure it's, yeah, that's flush. And that one's great too. So now, I don't know if you can see this, I'm going to lift it up here. Maybe we zoom in on it a little bit so you can see. Now on the back, again, this is right side, outside top. So this is the inside of the case that we're seeing. They're attached. I've got cables that I can go attach to power supply as I need to, and then from the outside it'll look like that. Now, again, this is one side, this is the right side. We're going to do the left side, 2 on the left side, and we're going to do the 3 that are on the rear. Do those off camera, so then the next time we start filming again, you'll see as we assemble everything together, and then that should be really the bulk of it done. Okay. Okay, one last little video here to illustrate how it turned out before I get to the finishing touches, which is painting. As you can see, it's finished now. The fans are all running. There's the one LED fan in back, which these 3 are exhaust, and the 2 on the sides on each side are intakes. It's a cube, and then hanging out the back now we've got a power cable there and an Ethernet cable here. Power and Ethernet, just like I had talked about. Ethernet, power, and I've just got it attached to an extension cord plugged into the wall. If we open up the door now, look inside, you can see that what I've got basically is a terribly lazy and cheap attempt to do a little bit of cable management. So I just took masking tape and taped down all of the cables from the fans where they're at, and then connected them together at the bottom through that power supply there. You can see in back there's a power strip there. So everything right now is powered off that. If I go and click that off, everything shuts down. All the fans will come to a stop here in a second. They're all wired to it. I don't have the fans on a separate switch, so I make it a switch just to be able to turn the fans on and off without having to turn the master power on or off. But if I go back over here and turn that on, you see that, yep, sure enough, everything lights up again. I've got that old Netgear router. It's just not a router, it's just a switch, just an 8-port switch, and it's connected up there, powered down in the corner there, and the Ethernet cable is going out the back to be able to connect to whatever else is on the network. So the way this is right now, it's basically ready to go. I'll need to paint it next, and then I'm ready to set it up and move a server into that. So I'm going to get to the painting now. But as far as the build goes, this is pretty much it. It's pretty much done as it is. So with any luck, next time you see it, it will be painted, and it'll be hopefully ready to put into place and set up with servers on it, and then tucked out of the way and very quiet, hopefully. Okay. Okay, here we go. Rolling out some paint. Running out of paint already. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on with my camera. I've lost now about 2 or 3 15 to 30 minute sections of video here. So hopefully this last one will record. I got about this far. Mostly got 1, 2, 3 sides and the top done. Didn't even get to start on the back before I ran out of paint. And obviously it needs a ton of touch-up work too. And then once I unmask the fans, I'll need to do edge work around where the fans are. But like I said, I'm out of paint, and it's about 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning, so I need to wait a few hours for a hardware store to open up so that I can go get some more high gloss black paint and finish this up. So I think this is going to be it for tonight, and then hopefully the end of this video, the end of this project will be tomorrow morning.